This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Fanalysts podcast. We are now in week 10. This fantasy season feels like it's flying by.
It really does.
I'll be honest though, week 9, not my best week.
No.
Actually, probably my worst week in the last 2 years.
No, it wasn't a great week, especially not in DFS. So DFS was probably where I had my lowest points this week. My low point. My high point actually was in my yearly league. I've just been on an absolute tear, and I have Dalvin Cook to thank for every bit of that. In 2 straight weeks now, I've put up the most points of the week, 2 straight weeks, and Dalvin Cook is pretty much entirely to thank.
Dalvin Cook's killed it.
Yes.
Like you know, I've been pretty consistent in DFS.
You have
this
been.
week
to the point where there's been a couple of people in our DFS league that have accused you of using external apps to run algorithms for you. I thought that was kind of funny, considering what's real messed up, though, is we do this podcast, and usually we only differ by a couple of players each week anyways. And I guess you sometimes just get a little bit luckier than me. But it's funny because if they, you know, and I know for a fact that clearly now we know they don't listen to us, because if they did, they'd know what we're playing.
Yeah.
Because our plays don't really differ from what we talk about here.
No.
Very rarely do we have a drastic change. I mean, obviously, this week you'll even get more of an idea into what our strategy is, because obviously we're not going to be doing waiver targets or pickups in a yearly league because, well, we're late.
Yeah.
So instead, we've decided that we're going to do more of a DFS focus this week. So we're going to give, dollar amounts for FanDuel and go from there. So you'll definitely get an idea of what we're playing this week.
But yeah, my week this week, I placed in last place in 2 contests in FanDuel.
Ouch.
And in my yearly league, despite having the second highest point total of the week, I got beat by 132 points.
Nice. So the apps and algorithms didn't work for you this week, eh?
No, I think I might have used the 2019 algorithm on this one.
Maybe, or they were just broken. Kind of like Google scoring or whoever FanDuel and Google have been using to update their scores has been most of the year.
But yeah, the having the second highest point total and still losing by 130 plus points, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty brutal. That's mean.
The guy I won against had Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams and Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. So it was
I left Kyler Murray on my bench this week.
Ouch.
I started Justin Herbert, who wasn't amazing, but he's been solid. So
yeah,
it didn't cost me anything. Obviously, I'm still sitting here saying I won this week. So
there you go. But how did your week go?
Well, like I said, I didn't win anything in any DFS contest. I was actually close. I was near the top, and I was near the money. I'll say that I was near the money. I was just off, and it mainly had to do with the fact that David Johnson got hurt, and I ran him in a couple contests, and then I ran Chase Edmonds, who severely disappointed yet again. Isn't that the second time this year that he's severely disappointed in what should have been a great opportunity?
A lot of players, if it was this week felt like a week it's just the top guys that did well and everyone else just sucked this week.
I mean, even Juju did really well this week.
If you look at the top the running back scoring from week 9, Kalen Ballage and Wayne Gallman were top 5 running back scorers, and they scored 15 points each.
Yeah. Running backs were brutal this week. No doubt.
Brutal. Only 2 running backs scored more than 16 points this week, and that was Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey.
Well, Dalvin Cook scored enough for everybody.
Yeah, you did.
You can thank the Lions not knowing how to count to 11 for that, by the way.
The top 10 was a real who's who in running back scoring. It was Kalen Ballage, Wayne Gallman, Devontae Booker's in there, Rex Burkhead.
Didn't Devontae Booker break a 60-yarder, though? That's why.
Did he? I don't know.
Think so. I think so. Let me check that, but I'm pretty sure he did, because I did see that, and I was like, Devontae Booker's still on a football team?
So yeah, it was an odd week.
It was an odd week. It definitely was an odd week.
I think my biggest disappointment was James Conner. I really confident in him going in. That's what I get for finally caving and recommending James Conner.
I did go with James Conner as well, and he also burned me. So
like your leading receiver this week was Richie James Jr. Like who?
He had an insane game though, man. No, he really didn't break a big one. His longest was of 23, but he had a touchdown on. I mean, he ran eight times for 68 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. So, I mean, are those numbers stellar by any means? No, but he didn't really get much opportunity, but he was very efficient, to say the least. But no, Richie James' game was real insane this week. And it sucks, too, because I can't even say he's a guy you really want to target as a free agency pickup, because I really don't expect it to continue. I think this was a total fool's gold moment where it's a splash in the pan, kind of like Jonas Gray for the Patriots a few years back that had that one random 220-yard game with 3 touchdowns, and after that he literally took 4 snaps the rest of the season.
People stormed the waiver wire.
Yeah, and then he took 4 snaps the next week, and I don't think he even played another game after that. It was so disappointing to see. And I honestly, I expect Richie James to be a little bit better than that, but I don't expect him to really do much.
Yeah.
But
we got to put last week behind us.
Yeah, we do have to. I mean, obviously,
weirdest of weird, in my opinion.
Obviously, it was a good week for me in my yearly league, but see, I'm not even really into my yearly league this year because, well, normally it's my big money league. We're not playing for money this year, so it's I don't care. I set my lineup. I've made a couple pickups. I make sure I have a kicker each week. That's what I do. Because I'm one of those people that I take a kicker last in the draft. Mm-hmm. And I just stream one each week. That if I ride the one until he has a bye, then I drop him and I never target him again. I just stream kickers week to week after that. Mm-hmm. So I hate leagues with kickers. Mm-hmm. There's no point to them. Nobody likes kickers, not in fantasy, anyways.
I'll tell you what, our league probably next year once we go back to a normal league, if we go back to normal league, it's going to be a no kicker league.
I don't think I want to go back to a normal league.
I might want to do both, to be honest with you, because I kind of want to keep the DFS league, but I have been craving regular fantasy football too.
There is that element,
you have it. I have this weird jacked up league that I'm not really enjoying right now.
Yeah, but so there is a difference in this league compared to what the leagues that we normally run and are a part of. There's a lot more banter involved with our league, and there's a lot more. Because obviously we hang out a lot more than the people in the other league that I'm in. Yeah. Because that's more of family. And I don't see my extended family all that often. Especially now, obviously. But when it's friends, there's constant text threads and there's constant shit being thrown back and forth. And honestly, the one thing I do miss the most is there was constantly trade talk going on. Always. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always. And it's because there's people in those leagues that like to do trades to try to make the rosters better. And they like to just get better and they like to make the trades. And honestly,
that's the exact part I miss about regular fantasy is just trades and waivers.
My fantasy football yearly season dream has been not necessarily a dynasty league, but a kind of half dynasty. Mm-hmm. Where you have 3 keepers every year, and obviously that your draft picks, you can trade draft picks and things like that. But you have 3 keepers every year. Mm-hmm. You can't keep a guy in the first 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, you can. It costs you a round ahead of where you got them, and it's the same people every year. Obviously, you're putting money on it, and you have people that like to trade and be aggressive. That is my dream fantasy league, because
that sounds like the league that I'm commissioner of, except we only have 1 keeper, not 3.
Well, 1's fine, 2's fine. I obviously want I want more than 1 because it's a little more strategies involved to your future when you got more than 1. Yeah. So you'd be willing to go after a guy that maybe is hurt for the year or is a rookie and may not do anything this year, but will next year.
Keeper leagues, from what I've noticed, you get a lot more trade action in keeper leagues because even players that are hurt have value.
Exactly.
If they have keeper value.
Especially when the more keepers you have. Mm-hmm. So, and that also frees up room to trade draft picks more, and you can go after people's, say you're going to be keeping a guy that you have to give up a 4th round pick for. Well, maybe you want to trade for a 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. So That's the type of league, like, I haven't had enough consistency with fantasy to where that's the type of league I'm in. Like, that's what I've always wanted. And the scoring's basically FanDuel scoring. So it's, it's half point PPR. I like to tweak the defensive scoring and the kicking scoring a little bit, but honestly, I'd get rid of a kicker anyways. But I like to tweak that a little bit just to make it make a little more sense. And I like to tweak the quarterback scoring to where quarterbacks can get punished a little more. I do feel like in a lot of leagues, quarterbacks are so overpowered that they decide matchups, and I don't like that. I think it should your matchup should rely on your entire lineup, not just your QB's play. So, but either way, eventually it'll happen for me. Eventually.
Yeah. I'm
still looking for that dream league, but I'll find it eventually. So, but anyways, though,
make it next year.
I mean, I may. I gotta see. It has to be a 12-team league, though. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
like anything less than 12 is just not real fantasy football in my mind. 10-team leagues are too easy. 8-team leagues are cake. Or kindergarten play camp.
What's the smallest league you've ever been a part of?
6 teams.
You done 6?
I have, and it was honestly not even that fun.
Yeah, I did. Was it 6 or was it 8? Actually, now that I think about it.
I think the first Friends League that you did, was it 8? I thought your first Friends team was 6.
It was 8 team because it was like the 6 dudes on my when I was in college, like the 6 dudes in my hall, and then we had a couple more people from outside. I think. Oh, okay. Were you in it? I remember.
I wasn't. I joined it the following year, I believe.
Okay.
And that's been the league that we've done every year, pretty much.
I had my cousin in it, and then one of my friends had his buddy in it. So.
Okay. I wasn't in it that year, but I think I was the following year. But yeah, I have done one 6-team league. It just wasn't fun. Like it just didn't make it wasn't hard. It wasn't like you may not have won every week, but you always put up a good score every week. So it wasn't that fun. There was no strategy involved.
It's not, and waivers aren't fun in those leagues.
There was zero strategy involved. Yeah. So
it's like, yeah, you have guys that are going waivers, but you also have like starting caliber players that are just on waivers because you can't fit them on your roster. So like you never really want to pick up one of the new waiver guys because.
Right. And no 8 teams in my mind is like preschool for fantasy football. So if you're new to it, maybe join an 18. Yeah,
that was the first and last time I did 18.
And 10 teams where, I feel like 10 team is like the junior varsity or the club level. And then 12 teams varsity. That's the real deal. That's what you do. And then anything more than that, well, that's just obscene. 12 is just the perfect number for fantasy football.
Like Alex is already Alex. When he had me draft for him, I didn't know he was in a 14-team league, and I'm like, well, this changes all the draft prep that I was doing for him.
14 is just brutal, man.
Yeah.
But
I do not like it.
If you're doing a 14-team league, I almost feel like it has to be a dynasty league. I almost feel like
the waiver wire is like barren.
That's why, like, it has to be a dynasty league so you can, have something to look forward to next year if one of your players gets hurt, one of your big players gets hurt, or something like that. Yeah. But
all right, let's get into buy or sell. I wish we had theme music for this, but
I believe we used to.
Yeah,
I believe there's a certain someone here who used to like to sing it.
But so our first buy or sell.
Oh, you're not gonna sing it?
Nah.
Our old viewers would be very upset.
Yeah, I'll leave it for the old viewers.
All right.
Tua Tagovailoa, buy or sell? QB1 rest of the season.
Oh man!
By QB1 would mean top 12.
Whoa! Wow, that's a bold proclamation. I'm gonna say sell. I'm like, I love Tua. I think the dude's gonna be a great QB, but I think that's a little bit lofty for me, especially considering there's a lot of quarterbacks that I did not expect to be really good that are really good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sell because I think the rest of the way he'll be kind of right on that cusp where he'll be like a QB 14 or 15. Just because I don't think he's got the weapons. He lost Myles Gaskin this week for an extended period of time.
Does have Devontae Parker.
He does, but
that's his biggest weapon by far.
Can we really call that a real weapon? The dude's been a disappointment his entire career.
He's been having a good season this year.
Yeah, he's been having a good couple of years. But
I'm kind of in the same spot with you on Tua actually, so I'm going to sell. He did take advantage of the Cardinals, put out 21 points on them, but believe it or not, that was only good for QB 17 this week. Like the 21.5 points that Tua put up.
I mean, there were some quarterbacks that put up big numbers this week.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you look at his upcoming schedule, he's got the Chargers, who have quickly depleted their secondary. The Broncos, the Jets, the Bengals. So he's got some favorable matchups coming up, which makes you want to.
Bag. It's kind of a mixed bag, though.
It like makes you want to lean towards buy, but I agree that he just doesn't have the weapons to do it. I think he just misses the mark.
I do too. Like I said,
I think he's a high end QB2 rest of the season.
He's got the potential. I just don't think he's got the guys to throw the ball to make it happen. I don't think he's got enough weapons there to really leap out and make plays. So I do think he kind of just misses it, and to no fault of his own. In all honesty,
buy or sell. Alshon Jeffrey returned to practice this week. His return will end Travis Fulgham's status as a weekly must start.
I'm going to sell because I really don't think Alshon Jeffrey's really ever been that great of a weapon for Carson Wentz in Philly anyways. I don't think they've ever really developed this crazy rapport that you can't split them up. And it seems Wentz and Fulgham have already. Very quickly, in fact. I do think it obviously does knock him down a little bit. But I also had to remind myself that Alshon Jeffrey was even still in the NFL. I mean, the guy hasn't really done much in the last couple of years anyways, and I don't think he's really going to take away from a young guy who's balling out right now. So I'm going to sell that.
I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, they do have Alshon Jeffrey.
I'll be honest with you. Until I realized that he actually is hurt to start the year, I straight up thought he had retired. Like, I didn't know he was still in the league for a hot minute.
But I think this is more about Fulgham for me, honestly, because of the fact that if you look at week 4, when he played his first game up until his bye last week, Fulgham was actually the highest scoring fantasy wide receiver during that stretch, using half one PPR scoring. So Alshon Jeffrey, I agree. It might, because it's obviously probably getting into his target share a little bit, so it probably knocks him down just a bit. But at worst, he's still a weekly wide receiver too in my mind. So that means he's still a weekly must start for me. So I'd sell also. I think Fulgham retains low end wide receiver 1 value with Alshon Jeffrey there. At worst, high end wide receiver 2.
I'll agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment also, just because, again, I don't think Alshon Jeffrey's going to jump into the lineup and automatically get 10 targets a game. I think he's going to be hovering around 4, 5, 6. Maybe he'll have a high point game, but I think you'll see some of the other receivers be the guys that kind of fall away. Maybe a Jalen Reagor loses a target or two. Maybe Dallas Goedert loses a target or two. I think Fulgham has his niche role in that offense that he's taken a chokehold on and he ain't letting go. And Carson Wentz loves throwing the football because he's making plays. The Eagles have actually played, albeit not pretty football, and I can't really call it good football, but they've played better football when Fulgham's been in the lineup and been the guy. So, I mean, they, I believe, are in first place in the division at 3-4-1, which, God, that division's got awful, but they're at least in first, and Fulgham, I think, is a good reason for it, at least a big reason for it.
No, I agree. And the other thing you got to think about also is, like, we do have all those targets that are vacated by Ertz, too. So it's not like, yes, the Eagles are finally starting to get healthy and finally have a wealth of options, receiving options, I should say. But, yeah, I just don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't see a giant role for Jeffrey in this offense anymore.
I don't either. I really don't either.
Moving on to another veteran wide receiver, Antonio Brown is supposed to make his debut this week with Tampa.
He did make his debut this week.
Oh, he did? He
played.
Didn't end up playing. He did play.
He did play. He actually caught a few balls.
Antonio Brown will finish as a wide receiver 2 or better rest of the season.
I'm going to sell that. I think there are just far too many mouths to feed in that Tampa offense. And frankly, at this point in his career, I think he's maybe even the 4th best receiver on that football team. So I don't see him. I know Tom Brady really likes him and really likes playing with him. He caught 3 balls for 31 yards, by the way. I know Tom Brady really likes to play with him and likes having him in the offense, but I just don't think at this level, at this point in his career, he's playing a level of football that compares to Chris Godwin or Mike Evans or, really anybody on that football team right now. Yep. So I'm going to sell that. I don't think he's going to be that great.
I agree. I struggle to even consider him a flex, to be honest with you.
I do too. I think he's going to be reliant on Godwin being hampered or by an injury, or Evans being hampered by an injury, or he's going to have the random big week that makes everybody buy in at some point. It's coming. Just if you play him, hope it's the week you play him. Other than that, I don't think he's going to do much.
All right, back to the Eagles. With that Eagles receiving core finally becoming healthy again, becoming whole, with the return of Jalen Reagor, the emergence of Travis Fulgham, now the return of Alshon Jeffrey, and Miles Sanders in pending return. I think he practiced this week, I believe. Is Carson Wentz, does he have enough weapons here for you to consider him a QB1 the rest of the season?
Does he have enough weapons? Yes. Is he good enough? No. He's got weapons there. I mean, he's got Miles Sanders who can play both the run and the pass effectively and keep the pressure off of him. He's got Travis Fulgham, who's been playing at an elite level this year. He's got a solid tight end still in Dallas Goedert. Like he's got weapons to throw the football to. However, I straight up just don't think he's any good. And two, I think his line is terrible. I don't think they're giving him enough time to throw the ball. And even when they don't give him enough time to throw the ball, he can't stop fumbling. So I'm not buying into him being a QB1 the rest of the year at all. And I think it's on him, and I think it's on his O-line, not his weapons.
I'm actually leaning towards buying on this one.
You really think he's an Alshon Jeffrey away from being a QB1?
No, no. This is what I'm saying here. Believe it or not, again, in that stretch since Fulgham's emergence, so weeks 4 through week 8, in that stretch, Carson Wentz was actually the QB5 overall. Now, that includes buys. So what I did to adjust for that is I took averages instead. So if you take average QB scoring over that period,
Carson Wentz think he had a buy in that stretch, did he?
He did not. That's why. Carson Wentz is top 10. He's number 10. And to be honest with you, with the return of his weapons, with Miles Sanders coming back too, I don't see it getting worse. So for me, I think it's certainly possible, and I'll buy it, that he could be a QB1 the rest of the season.
Really? I'm actually kind of surprised to hear those numbers, because
me too.
I don't see it with him. Like I feel like he's struggled a lot this year, and with the amount that he turns the ball over and the way that offense has been, honestly, you mentioned it right now. He is QB 14 overall, and that's throughout the whole season. So that maybe there is something to be said about this. And in the last four,
for me, it's more about how he's done with having Travis Fulgham as a weapon. And then having Jalen Reagor now to take attention off Fulgham, having Alshon Jeffrey to spread the ball around more. I just feel like it's not going to get worse.
So what scoring are you going off of? Because NFL.com has him at QB 14 the last 4 weeks.
I'm going off standard scoring, and this would have been from weeks 4 through 8. So this is the games Fulgham has played so far.
Okay,
so that's what I was using.
Well, it was week 9 this past week.
I know, but they weren't by. So I was taking the weeks
I was
taking the weeks that Fulgham has played.
So that would include their bye there. Okay, all right. So that would knock him down. So if you include the bye, though, he does drop down a week.
So let's do total points and include the bye. They'll even it out.
He does drop down a week to QB 14. So he is right on the cusp. And obviously only 4 of those weeks have been with Travis Fulgham. But maybe there is something to this. I mean, you might be right here. I mean, there is a possibility. Like we said, they had the bye in week 9. Week 8, he was not good. He was the worst QB of the week. Fun fact. Sorry, he was 25th. I stand corrected. He was 25th. Week 7, he was QB 7.
And if you look at their upcoming schedule too, they got the Browns this week. Then they have the they have the Giants this week. Then the Browns. Then they got the Seahawks.
So there's some get right games in there. I mean, QB 3 in week 6. Week 5, he was. QB
they also
14.
have the Cardinals and the Cowboys coming up. They do have to face Washington, which is going to be a tough one.
Week 4, he was QB 11.
For Wentz specifically.
Maybe there is something to this outside of week 8, where he was QB 25, which is terrible. I mean, QB 7, QB 3, QB 14, and what was he in week 4? QB 11. So I mean, he's been primarily a top-notch QB in weeks 4 through 8. So hey, maybe there is something to this. You may have sold me. All right, I'm going to pick up Carson Wentz right now.
Final buy or sell here, and if you're Zeke, you may want to sit down for this one. Zeke is nothing more than a flex play rest of the season.
I'm gonna sell that. This is. Let's pump the brakes, okay? This is still Zeke Elliott. I mean, I know he's been bad with Ben DiNucci. Let's pump the brakes here for a second.
Not just Ben DiNucci, Andy Dalton too.
Andy Dalton played about 7 minutes. Let's give it a break.
Hey, whatever his face is, Gavin something or another that played last week.
Wasn't it Ben DiNucci?
No.
So we're literally playing a who's who at the corner.
Yeah, it's a rotating
for Dallas Cowboys quarterback now. I like this.
Yep.
I'm gonna pump the brakes here. I'm not gonna say buy or sell. I'm going to say, whoa there, Nelly. If Andy Dalton is the quarterback there, I think Zeke Elliott is a low end to mid tier RB2. I'll start with that. If Andy Dalton is not the quarterback, oh Lord, there's some trouble coming. Like he won't be a flex play.
So
at best, he's a flex
basically,
play.
what you're doing is buy unless
I'm hedging my bets.
Unless they get Andy Dalton or better.
Yes, unless they have Andy Dalton back or better.
Because Zeke, since that got hurt, he's actually been the RB31 on the season.
That's not good.
Yeah. Well, I should say season. In that stretch, he's been the RB31.
Which I'll give him a pass on the first week with Andy Dalton. New quarterback is never when a new quarterback comes in, it's never a good thing for an offense. So I always give a team a pass in that regard.
Yeah,
it's the second week with the quarterback where he's had a full week of practice with the ones. That's where things start to take shape. We didn't really get to see that because Andy Dalton's head got taken off in that second game. So
yeah. Any status on him, by the way? I haven't really heard much.
I actually thought he was supposed to be back this upcoming week. I could be wrong on that. Well, this is a couple of weeks ago. I don't want that. How recent is this? Nope,
But
all right, I don't have anything. Oh wait, no, I don't have anything recent. I don't.
There's a lot of.
Okay. Here we go. The reason he did not play in week 9 was because of a positive COVID-19 test. That's why.
Oh, so he's recovered from his
yes,
concussion.
He's recovered from the concussion, but he tested positive for COVID, so he was held out. Things just can't get right for him, can they?
Jesus.
Garrett Gilbert was the quarterback for the Cowboys.
Here's something.
I almost wanted to say Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried was the quarterback for the Cowboys this week.
Oh my god! Could you imagine? His cadence?
Can you imagine him in the huddle? Can you do the Gilbert Gottfried impression?
I can't.
All right. Number 81, I need you to run a post.
Oh my god! I'm just trying to picture Gilbert Gottfried calling out the cadence.
Hot.
Omaha.
Anyway.
We've lost cabin pressure. Let's continue.
So this is twofold because it's not just that Zeke has not been playing well since Dak has got hurt. It's that Tony Pollard's been outplaying him.
He really has, though.
So
I've been saying for years Tony Pollard should be getting more opportunities. I like Zeke, but I don't think he's the best thing since sliced bread like everybody's made him out to be.
Now, in terms of their upcoming games, it is a mixed bag. Like, yeah, the Ravens and Niners, Washington are tougher matchups, but then you also have matchups that have been favorable to running backs like the Eagles, the Bengals, the Vikings this week. So it's a mix. It's hard to project based off schedule. But for me, unless I see a vast improvement from Andy Dalton since week 1.
I mean, he didn't play week 1.
Sorry, since his first week playing. Since his first game. I don't know why I said week 1. I find it hard to trust Zeke in my RB2 spot. Now, he doesn't have a long way to go to get back to RB2 status. He just got to jump from RB31 to RB24. So no, I'll sell. I'll sell, but barely. Right. So I'll agree with you in low end RB2.
Okay. I was gonna say something. I don't even remember what I was gonna say anymore. No, I think there is possibilities that Zeke does turn this around. Oh, here we go. And I do think, though, and I will say this is a little bit of, I'd beware of some fool's gold when it comes to Zeke, just because in one of those get-right games, like against the Bengals or the Eagles or someone, he is going to have a good game in one of those games. It's going to happen. However, there's a very good possibility the very following week he busts again. So I wouldn't automatically say, he put up 20-something points this week against Bengals.
He gets the Niners. So
right. So I absolutely wouldn't be jumping back on the Zeke train just because he had a good week against one of those teams, because I do think the same problems will reappear the following week against a better defense. So
let's put it this way: we're certainly not buying low on Zeke.
No, I actually, if I'm a Zeke owner right now, I'm probably looking to shoot him out of a cannon.
Yeah.
If I can, and I think I might. Granted, I don't necessarily love drafting Zeke to begin with. I don't know why, I just never have, so I've shied away from him. I like other running backs, so I tend to shy away from Zeke, and I've actually never owned him. Really? Yes.
Not even in DFS?
Not even in DFS. I don't think I've ever played him. Yeah, I think I am one of the I may be the only Zeke holdout who has never played him. Because in all reality, like, in anything that's PPR, Zeke loses value.
Yep, that's true.
And DFS is half one PPR. And for what his price has been, I can get a running back like an Alvin Kamara for roughly the same price that's going to outperform him in a PPR type situation. And he's probably the same price if I want to spend that much on a running back. So I've never valued I've never put enough value on him to justify spending the kind of coin he was going to cost in DFS.
Yeah, Zeke was like a matchup play for me in terms of DFS because, you're right. He's expensive. And when you have those expensive guys, I mean, if you have like a ton of money to spend, if you went cheap all the way, then you just pick an expensive dude.
I love those weeks where I can go stupid cheap at wide receiver.
To a matchup play. What you said? What?
I love those weeks where I can just go stupid cheap at wide receiver, like all across the board, and then I can just stack my running backs. Like I think it was last week where I played both Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara at running back. I stacked it like crazy.
I'm trying to get two expensive guys in my lineup right now, and I'm struggling to figure out how to do it. I think I might have an out, but I don't love it.
Who are the two?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We want to start and sits?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let me pull that up. There we go. I'm ready to go whenever you are. Do you want to take it away?
Sure.
All right, let's start with QBs.
My first start of the week. We already talked about him. I'm going Tua Tagovailoa. Against the LA Chargers. The Chargers have allowed 250 yards and 2 touchdowns per game to the QB position. So they're on the precipice of being bottom 5 in the league in respect to that. In that respect, and last week they traded away another key player in their secondary, which we talked about, in Desmond King. And Tua himself was coming off a strong 250-2 performance in Week 9, and at only $6,800 this week, really good value in DFS. $6,800 in FanDuel, I should say. Really good value.
Hang on, let's pump the brakes on the dollars. We'll get to that afterwards. I'm
talking contest winning value, but okay, let's keep going.
My start of the week at quarterback is actually a couple of guys in the same matchup. I'm going with both Josh Allen and Kyler Murray in that Cardinals-Bills game matchup. Because much like Kyler Murray had a shootout against the Seahawks and came out on top, mind you, last week, I think it's going to happen again this week. Josh Allen and Kyler Murray are both at their peak performance right now after Josh Allen's performance this past week and Kyler Murray's in his past week. So I think both guys playing at the top of their games right now is going to make for a big-time scoring game. And I think these guys are going to be lights out this week. So I like either one of them a lot.
I love Josh Allen this week too, and Kyler Murray. Yeah, I like them both. My second start of the week, and this is more a matchup based on matchup than anything else. It's Jared Goff against Seattle. Seattle's ranked dead last against QB position, as you all probably very well know by now.
Their defense is so bad.
Oh yeah, they're allowing 27.6 points per game to the QBs.
What's the second worst team giving up to QBs? Just out of curiosity.
That's a good question. I can tell you in about 3 seconds.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
It is the Atlanta Falcons.
How many points a week?
26.3 fantasy.
So they're like a whole point ahead.
Oh yeah.
That's bad.
And then that number 3 is Jacksonville 23.4. So there's a big drop off.
Oh, geez, so there's
steep
clearly-
drop off, steep drop off, steep drop off, and then it kind of steadies after.
There's clearly 2 really bad teams against quarterbacks, and it's the Seahawks and the Falcons. Got it. All right. My next start of the week is actually going to be Aaron Rodgers against that Jaguars team. Fun fact.
Yep.
He just mentioned, the Jaguars are the second worst team in the league against quarterbacks, giving up 26 points a game to them. And Rodgers is going to just dump all over them, dropping dimes everywhere in Devontae Adams' hands, and put up big numbers against that Jaguars defense. So,
Giving your starts?
That was my other start.
I said, do you have any other ones before we move to sits? Okay. Joe Burrow against Pittsburgh is my start of the week at QB. The Steelers have yet to allow a 300-yard passer this season. And believe it or not, Burrow only has 3 games on the season where he's failed to reach the 300-yard mark. His average fantasy points score when he doesn't reach the 300-yard mark is 13.8 points per game.
It was close.
13.8 points per game. That's not good.
No, it's not great.
Yeah. So, yeah, Joe Burrow, I don't think he reaches the 300-yard mark, which means I project him to get in the low teens this week.
My sit of the week at quarterback is going to be Lamar Jackson going up against the Patriots. The Patriots defense the Patriots defense has been real stingy against quarterbacks, and Lamar Jackson just ain't right.
Yeah.
And so I don't like the matchup, and I don't like the player right now. He ain't the Lamar Jackson that was the MVP last year. That's for damn sure.
All right.
I do have one more.
One more.
Yes, I do have another sit. Ryan Tannehill going up against Colts. Colts defense is very stingy to anybody. Anybody, especially the quarterback position. Ryan Tannehill also hasn't really played all that great the last couple of weeks. He's run into some tough matchups in the last few weeks. And it's going to continue here. I don't expect Ryan Tannehill to have a great game. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm pretty sure, isn't one of his pass catchers dealing with a nagging injury right now? Was it A.J. Brown? I know he's back healthy.
Yeah, he's back now.
I know that. I know he's back now, but is he still dealing with missing practice and stuff?
Fine.
No? Okay.
He's fine.
Never mind then. But either way, I still don't like the matchup here for Ryan Tannehill going up against Colts.
All right, moving on to running back. My start of the week is going to be James Robinson against the Packers.
Yep, they gave up like 100,000 million yards to Dalvin Cook 2 weeks ago.
Yep, no secret that they can't stop the run. That's an obvious one. They're allowing 4.5 yards per attempt, and they've given up the most touchdowns to running backs in the NFL.
That's like a college bad number.
Yeah, and then with Jake Lutt under center with Jacksonville, Robinson actually saw his highest carry total of the season with 25 carries. I don't actually expect him to hit 25 carries this week because I don't think GameScript's going to go that way for him.
I think the Jags defense too bad, but he's also relevant in the passing game.
Yeah, that's true, and I think he has a big enough role in this offense where no matter what, I think he's going to see a good chunk of carries, and it doesn't take that many carries to expose the Packers defense. So I like him.
I'm going to piggyback off that because he is also my start of the week at running back. Like I mentioned, the Packers defense is terrible against good running backs, and James Robinson is quietly a very good running back. He's averaging 17.1 points per game, and that's FanDuel keeping track right there. That's a hell of a number, especially for an undrafted rookie running back that plays on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think we've seen that type of production since like Maurice Jones-Drew was there.
Hey.
James Robinson up against his Packers team. While the game script may not favor him getting a ton of carries, I do still expect him to hit at least 15 carries. I expect to see him touch the ball 20, 25 times in this game. So where he may not get the carries, he will get the pass catching opportunities and he will make plays. So I think James Robinson is going to be a solid player regardless.
Dude, speaking of Maurice Jones-Drew, I every time I think of him now, I remember, I don't know if you had Madden, the one with Calvin Johnson on the cover. That was Madden 12, right?
I think so. I did have it, by the way.
But do you remember the NFL Hall of Fame team that they had?
I do not.
So they had a Hall of Fame team. Like, it was one of the teams that you could play with. And it was just all, like, it was like the NFL Hall of Fame. It was all, like, Hall of Famers and stuff. And, like, the running back slate, they had, like, your running back, like, the running backs you had on the team, they were, like, Barry Sanders.
Earl
Emmitt
Campbell.
Smith. Yeah, like, they had a ton of, like studs. And then you had Maurice Jones-Drew. And I'm like, why is Maurice Jones-Drew on this team?
One of these is not like the other. I mean, MJD was a monster. Let's be real.
He was. But he was still in the league at the time. And I'm like, you already calling it? Like, Hall of
what?
Fame? Yeah, 2012, he was still in the league, man. Like,
well, I know he was still in the league, but it's kind of weird.
Like, you're calling it already? Like, jeez. All right, my next start of the week. Given that he plays Antonio Gibson against Detroit. Gibson's only faced one bottom 10 run defense this season. He's actually had a pretty tough schedule for running backs, and that team is the Cowboys.
Been very productive.
Mm-hmm. And he responded in that one game that he got to face a bottom 10 defense, 128 yards and a touchdown. Lions are the worst run defense in the league.
Dalvin Cook just pooped on them.
Yeah. You want to know what their averages are right now? They're allowing splits of 135 yards per game and 5.1 yards per carry to running backs this year.
Oh, my God. That's so bad.
So they are also one of only 4 teams that are allowing more than
that
one
have had more than
game.
One not enough men on the field situations.
Yeah, there's that too. It's really hard to stop a running back when you have 10 guys there. So
3 times in 2 weeks.
They are only one of 4 teams allowing more than 1 touchdown per game in the running back position. So all those combined, as long as Gibson plays, I'm expecting a strong outing here.
I would expect the same. Oh my God, that Lions defense is so bad.
It's collapsed.
My next start of the week, and to think we were thinking that they were actually somewhat good.
Yeah.
Jeez. My next start of the week at running back is Kareem Hunt going up against the Texans. Texans defense all across the board is terrible.
Yeah.
And I actually think Kareem Hunt has enough of a role in that offense where he can be very effective. I don't think we see Nick Chubb back yet.
He is supposed to come back.
Is he supposed to come back this week? Either way,
they both have big.
I was going to say, either way, I like them both. If Chubb's back, I like them both. If he's not back, I love Kareem Hunt this week. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity in both the run and the pass to make some plays against that Texans defense. So I think Hunt could be a really good value this week.
Do you have another start?
I do not.
All right. Sit for me is Mike Davis against Tampa. I know how this works. You know, Mike Davis owners, you guys are probably all excited because your running back suddenly has value again because Christian McCaffrey got hurt again. DFS players, you're probably salivating at the opportunity to get a starting back in your lineups for pennies on the dollar. I'm saying not so fast here. He's going against Tampa, a team that has yet to even allow 60 rushing yards to a running back this season. And that's despite the fact that they faced Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, and Alvin Kamara twice. Kamara was my sit/fade of the week last week against Tampa. He ended up going for 49 total yards and a touchdown. Mike Davis is going to eat alive here, okay? I wouldn't put him in my lineup even if he was free.
Yeah, that Tampa defense is the real deal. Their D-line has been the identity of that defense all season long, so I don't think that's going to change up against a guy by the name of Mike Davis.
Yep.
My set of the week is actually going to be Josh Jacobs going up against the Broncos. Broncos defense is another one that the D-line has been effective and very good at stopping the run, and Josh Jacobs just hasn't been as electrifying for me this year as he was last year. And it's not like he's had a bad season, but he's not been that great either. I actually could be entirely wrong on that. I really am not totally sure, but this week I don't think he's going to be that great. I think the Broncos defense are going to be able to put the clamps on him as they have with other running backs this year. So I don't love that matchup whatsoever.
Do you have another sit?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs this year, 3.7 yards per attempt. Not great. I do have another sit, and I just minimized. It's the entire Seahawks backfield against the Rams.
Whoever's going.
No, in all reality, I have no idea who's going because Chris Carson is supposedly, possibly, maybe back this week, and Carlos Hyde is supposedly, possibly, maybe back this week. And either one in weeks that they are there shouldering the load in that backfield, I would think in most weeks are a solid play. However, against the Rams, nobody's a solid play. And so, therefore, I'm just going to say sit the whole backfield because ain't nothing good coming in this week.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do have a buyer beware.
Oh, go for it.
Excuse me. Just because of the price in DFS, he's a guy a lot of people have relied on in DFS. It's Alvin Kamara going up against 49ers. That is a tough defense to run against.
Straight buyer beware on Alvin Kamara.
Yes. I love me some Alvin Kamara. Like, he's easily one of my favorite players in the league. And this week, once again, I do think he's going to struggle against a very good run defense in the San Francisco 49ers. And for the price, it's just hard to justify going after him this week. And I'm actually going to throw a second one.
Oh, go for it.
Dalvin Cook against the Bears.
Ooh.
I know he's the hottest hand in fantasy football.
He's probably tired at this point.
Well, not just that. The Bears' defense is a legitimate run defense. Like, they're no slouch. They're very tough to run against, and the way that they play the game, you don't get a lot of offense. You don't get to run a ton of plays against the Bears. And I know their offense is bad, but the way their defense is, there's not going to be a lot of scoring in that game. So I think Dalvin Cook may be a tough play this week. just because of the price. He may score that saves his week, but I wouldn't expect another 40, 50-point performance out of him. That's for damn sure.
Moving on, wide receivers. My wide receiver start of the week, and I think this is probably one that you're probably going to be hearing a lot this week. Cooper Kupp against Seattle. Last week, I don't know if you remember, I told you guys that Seattle had allowed 800-yard receivers this season, and Ayuk was also close to making it 9, and I said to start Diggs. Well, Diggs made it 9, and John Brown was 1 yard away from making it 10.
So they're literally at 9, but it really almost is 10, 11, 12, and 13 because they had the week where they gave up 90 yards to 3 different receivers.
You could really go Kupp or Woods here, to be honest, but I'll lean Kupp because it's been the bigger wide receivers that have consistently beat them this year. Guys like Julio Jones, Devontae Parker, Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Gallup, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, Sheldon Wilson Jr. Can I stop?
Yes. Let's just say the Seahawks defensive backs are short, not physical, and they're just bad.
But yeah, Kupp and Goff should be a strong stack this week.
Absolutely a strong stack this week. And I'm actually going to piggyback off that by saying start both Woods and Kupp because I don't care how tall the receiver is. They ain't stopping anybody out there.
Yeah.
Diggs ain't exactly tall, and he just torched them. So I think that either one could have a big week. In fact, I'll say both could have a big week. You know what? I'll throw out a hot take. Both receivers.
Like Woods, the short receiver, is what, 6 feet?
Yeah.
Right?
I'll throw a hot take out there. I think both receivers end up with over 100 yards this week. So, yeah. I don't even know if that's really
par for the course for Seattle.
Yeah, it's par for the course. Never mind. So I think both guys are going to be a safe play. I think Kupp is the little bit better of a play because he has a little bit more of the touchdown potential with the red zone opportunities. And also, honestly, I wouldn't really shy away from Tyler Higbee this week in that matchup just because there could be some opportunity for him in the red zone because you know the Rams are going to be in it all damn day. So Higbee could be a sneaky good play.
My next start of the week is going to be Allen Robinson against Tennessee. Last week I said that he'd quietly been the wide receiver 3.5 point PPR scoring since Nick Foles has taken over at QB. That still rings true this week. And despite the fact that he's only found the end zone once in the last 5 weeks, which is surprising. Well, he gets to face Minnesota this week, and not only are they allowing the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, they're also the only team in the league that's allowing 2 wide receiver touchdowns per game. So I think Robinson's finally going to find the end zone this week and kind of break that. Yeah, he gets both of them. So I think he breaks that drought and he delivers a strong fantasy performance this week.
I agree with you. That Vikings defense is terrible. But I'm going to go with I want to start Will Fuller or Brandon Cooks this week up against the Browns. Both receivers have had very sneakily, very solid seasons, especially lately, where Brandon Cooks has kind of come on strong, having a really good few weeks here. And the Browns defense, their secondary is no good. I think that offense with the playmaking quarterback that Deshaun Watson is, has a chance to put up some big numbers. And I think Fuller and Cooks will be a big part of that.
But I want to make a correction. I said Vikings. I meant Tennessee. But what I said is still true. I just meant to say Tennessee.
Wait, what?
Allen Robinson.
He is going up against
Vikings.
Yeah, it is the Vikings this week.
Wrong. Sorry, I had the thing wrong. You're right. It is the Vikings.
I was going to say.
I'm all over the place.
You are all over the place. It's okay.
All right. Anyway, who was your start of the weekend? I apologize.
Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks against Browns.
Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. That is a strong start right there.
Yes.
Do you have another one?
I do not.
Okay.
Because my other one was Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I went with pairs of wideouts this week.
Yeah. Moving to the other side of this matchup, though, I'm going to sit Adam Thielen against Chicago.
I have him as a sit as well.
Here's the thing. Last week, I said that the Bears' pass D has been stingy, and they've only allowed 2 touchdowns to wide receivers for 8 weeks. And I said they've only allowed 1 wide receiver to go for 100 yards, and that was Calvin Ridley in week 3. I talked about how they held Mike Evans to 41 in week 5 and Cooper Kupp to 43 in week 7. Well, A.J. Brown turned around and made me eat my words. He put up 101 and a touchdown against him. I'm not backing down A.J. Brown. I'm doubling down to Chi-Town. They face stealing this week. There's no way they allow that kind of 2 weeks in a row. Call it up, down theory, call it reverse recency bias, call wherever you want. Thielen's my sit of the week.
Hold on a minute for that one. You just straight up put a poem out there. Damn it, I don't have the clapping sound effect anymore. Oh, all right. Anyways. No, I agree with you. I think that defense is a tough one to match up against. I have Adam Thielen in there as well. That Bears defense is just mean.
Oh, yeah.
So I am going with a sit here, and where I gave receiving duos in my starts, I'm going with the receiving trio. Actually, quadruo? A quartet? I don't know. I'm going with the entire. Yeah, I'm going with the entire Tampa Bay wideout core.
Whoa!
Against
You're
the Panthers.
casting wide nets this week.
I am. I don't like any of them this week against Panthers. Where the Panthers' run defense is terrible, their pass defense is as good as their run defense is bad. And I do think the Bucs are going to look to try to pound the rock this week because of how bad the Panthers' run defense is. And I'm just not. And with Chris Godwin again dealing with an injury, Mike Evans just hasn't looked right all year. Antonio Brown is 32 and looks like he lost a step or two. I'm not seeing the Tampa wideouts really being successful this week, especially with the way that Tom Brady's been playing as well. I think he's starting to fall off a little bit. He's showing his age a bit too. So against that Panthers secondary, I don't like the Tampa wideouts this week whatsoever.
Moving on to tight ends.
I actually have a buyer beware here as well.
Oh shit, go for it.
Yeah. My buyer beware is actually the Seahawks wideouts against the Rams. I know that both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have been solid this year and even great at times.
Rams have been bullies to wide receivers.
Yes, the Rams have been bullies wide receivers. So where the price is going to be for a guy like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett may be a little cheaper because he's had a couple of bad weeks in a row. But either way, I don't like playing either one of them this week against that Rams defense because, again, like you mentioned, DK Metcalf being covered by Marcus Peters, he may not even be able to get an opportunity to get open this week. So yeah. I don't really see the Seahawks wideouts being that successful against that Rams D.
All right, here's a fun one for you. DK Metcalf, Adam Thielen.
Oh, do I have to pick one?
Yeah, you got to play one. Who are you playing?
I'll be honest with you because I believe in DK Metcalf a lot more. I think he's a better wideout at this point. I'd go DK Metcalf because he is a must start every single week. So I'd lean DK over Thielen this week.
But then I assume you probably take Thielen over Lockett then.
Yes, I don't trust Lockett right now. The way he's played last couple of weeks, he
either blows up or like gives you a wide receiver.
He literally goes for three. He literally goes for 3 touchdowns or 2 catches. It's one of the two things for him.
Moving on to tight ends. My tight end start of the week is going to be Evan Ingram going against Philly. Evan Ingram actually secured his first touchdown. Round of applause last week against Washington. He goes against an Eagles team that's allowing the 3rd most touchdowns to tight ends. Only the Falcons and Jags are allowing more.
So maybe he gets a second?
I'm calling he gets a second. That's why it's my start of the week.
I'm going with Eric Ebron up against the Bengals, and I can't believe as a Lions fan I'm saying this, but Eric Ebron going up against Bengals. Bengals are terrible against tight ends. They give up a ton of points. And Eric Ebron has actually been pretty damn solid this year in Pittsburgh. I think he's really kind of found a home there. Even though Ben Roethlisberger may or may not play because he's on the COVID reserve list. But I do think Eric Ebron has a really good opportunity to make some plays happen against that Bengals defense this week.
You know how bitter I get every time I hear Eric Ebron as start of the week?
I've never been upset when a player scores a touchdown. Good for him. I actually kind of get upset when he scores touchdowns. It's like, even if it has no implications for me in fantasy, none whatsoever. I'm not going against him, nothing. When he scores, I'm a little bitter. I'm a little upset.
If you guys couldn't tell, we're Detroiters. All right. My next start of the week is going to be Logan Thomas against
Logan
Detroit. Logan Thomas against Detroit. I've been saying this for a while. The Lions' early season performance against tight ends was fraudulent, and they are who we thought they were. Cue the Dennis Green drop. We're really starting to see that now in recent weeks. Over the last 3 weeks, they've allowed an average of 60 yards and a touchdown at tight end position. The worst part of that is only one of the tight ends they face over that span is a top 20 fantasy tight end, and that's Hayden Hurst. Logan Thomas, I think, could do some work against the Detroit defense.
I agree with you, actually. I have been in the same boat you're in, where I just don't believe in this Lions defense to be able to stop tight ends. They don't have linebackers that can cover the tight end position, and it's just a fact. And Irv Smith put up 2 touchdowns. Granted, he only caught 2 balls for 10 yards, but both were for touchdowns last week. Kyle Rudolph added some catches as well against the Lions this week for the Vikings. So I definitely don't think that there's any reason to shy away from Logan Thomas, despite what the Lions have been able to do against tight ends earlier in the season. So my start of the week at tight end, my other one here is going to be Robert Tonyan going up against the Jaguars. The Jaguars are terrible against tight ends. We saw TJ Hawkinson torch the shit out of them earlier this year. And Robert
They're one of
Tonyan,
the only teams worse than the Lions.
yes, and Robert Tonyan, in my opinion at least, looks like he's developing a fine rapport with Aaron Rodgers in that Packers offense. So I think he's got a really good opportunity to put up some points against the Jaguars defense. Sits?
Yeah. My sit of the week, and I guess this is more of a fade, but I'm going to call it a sit because this is how confident I am in this one. I went for big air last week with Kelsey, and he punched me in the mouth for it. All right. He went for, 130 yards. I probably didn't learn my lesson, though, because I'm doing it again this week. Pats are this. I'm going Mark Andrews.
I'm doing the same damn thing
against the Patriots. The Pats are the second best defense against Titans in the NFL, only allowing 4.4 fantasy points per game. The impressive part is that's with them having faced Kelsey and Kittle. They held Kelsey to 70 yards and killed at 55 yards, which, yes, is actually below average for both of them, believe it or not. And they kept both guys out of the end zone. There is no reason to believe they won't do the same to Mark Andrews.
I don't trust Lamar Jackson this week against that Pats defense, and that means I don't trust Mark Andrews either. Mm-hmm. I do think they hold him out of the end zone. We've known Mark Andrews to put up a dud week every now and then, and I think this is going to be one of them. Yeah. So I completely agree. My sit of the week, though, also is going to be Jared Cook up against the 49ers. I don't believe in that Saints offense this week against that 49ers defense. I think they'll get some points here and there, but I don't think Cook's going to be the guy to get it for them. The 49ers have been one of the best defenses in the league against the tight end position. So I would shy away from the Saints tight end this week.
Yeah.
Shall we move to
defenses?
Defenses, I've got 3 that I actually like this week.
4 this week.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go.
I feel like this is going to double as our transition to our DFS segment here.
It is.
These are all value plays.
Right. These are the cheaper defenses. I've got Eagles versus the Giants and the Giants versus the Eagles. Both teams are
picks. Or
yes,
is that one?
Technically speaking, it is 2 picks, but both sides of the ball give up a ton of points to defenses, and I don't think there's any reason to not believe either one can give up points as well. The Eagles O-line can't block for shit, and Carson Wentz doesn't know how to hang on to a football. I believe he leads the league in quarterback fumbles. So, and the Giants on the other side of the ball, Danny Dimes throws way too many picks and turns it over way too much. So I think that you're going to get points from both defenses in this week.
I actually had Giants versus Eagles as one of mine. A lot of it is predicated on the fact that Wentz has the most interceptions of any QB in the league right now. And
fumbles.
And not to mention the Giants, believe it or not, they've quietly been a top 10 DST this season.
Really?
Yes.
That's shocking.
Right. And you put those two together and consider what they're going for in FanDuel, which is $3,900. I'll take that.
Same.
So, anyway. Okay, you can go.
Okay. My other one is going to be the Lions up against the Washington football team. Kyle Allen is going to be having surgery on his ankle that he broke, and I don't know, he did a ton of things to his ankle this week, which means Alex Smith is going to be the quarterback for the Washington football team, and in not even a whole game last week, he threw 3 picks. I know the Lions defense is bad, but they do have a secondary that can force some turnovers, and they can, provided they blitz more than one time in a game, get after the quarterback, and they have pass rushers that can make plays. So I do think that the Lions have an opportunity to put up some points against the Washington football team offense. So, and they are a very cheap play this week as well at $3,900 on FanDuel. So I think that is a definite value play to take a look at.
I'm actually going the other side of that game. I'm going to go Washington football team against
Fair
Detroit.
enough.
They've Washington football team's actually been one of the best defenses against the pass this season. They have 8 interceptions on the year, which makes them top 10 in that category. And when you look at the mistakes Stafford's been making over the last couple of weeks, he seems to be really in a funk now, and Washington can really make him pay for it on Sunday.
And
at
no
only
Kenny
$3,800, and no Kenny Galladay. And at $3,800, that's, again, really good value.
I'm going to actually piggyback off that and say that I really do think that the Washington football team D-line is going to dominate the line of scrimmage this week. I don't think the Lions running game is going to ever be able to get going, and I also don't think that Stafford's going to be very comfortable in that backfield, because that Washington football team defense has some pass rushers there that can create havoc. So I think Washington's going to be able to control the D-line battle for most of this game. So watch out for that. So let's go over to some. Let's because we're releasing.
I have a couple.
Oh, you have a couple more. Okay,
defenses.
all right,
Yes,
all right.
sir.
I will pump the brakes.
This one surprised me in terms of what their price is. Chicago going against the Vikings. I can't for the life of me figure out why the Bears DST is only $3,600 in FanDuel.
What? That's got to be an error.
Well, if it's an error, take advantage of it. Cousins has thrown 10 interceptions on the season, which is second only to Wentz for most of the NFL. Bears are also a borderline top 10 defense against the run, so they should be at least be able to slow down Dalvin Cook. And the Bears have been a solid DST throughout the season, despite the fact that half of their games this season have been against top 10 offenses against DSTs in Tennessee, New Orleans, Carolina, and Atlanta. Against the rest of the teams outside of that, they're averaging around 7 fantasy points per game. Minnesota is even a top 15 offense against DST, so I think the Bears are going to have a good game here, especially at that price, $3,600.
I mean, I'd be curious to see what the Vikings are in the last couple of weeks with the way Dalvin Cook's been playing. Probably one of the toughest defenses or offenses against DSTs, but either way, I'm really shocked they're only $3,600.
Right?
That's stupid.
And my last one, and this is if you find yourself needing to shave off for like another $100 or $200 to get that one last guy in your lineup. This is how low you can go on defenses this week. Las Vegas Raiders going against Denver.
Yup.
Broncos are allowing 9.6 fantasy points per game to opposing DSTs. That is in part because Drew Lock has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns over the last 4 games, 6-5. Raiders only have 3 interceptions on the season, so it's not like I like them as a defense, but at only $3,500, they're a low-cost, high-upside play that you can plug in if you really need to go cheap on defense.
Absolutely. So in the DFS plays, I have this titled as DFS plays to look at. It's basically all value plays. I have both the Lions, I have Washington, and I have the Raiders defense in my value plays. I didn't even see the Bears defense at $3,600, so I still think you're lying. But at the Bears defense at $3,500, Broncos are 30th in points to defenses, which is good for 3rd worst in the league. So I think that's a play right there. If you do, like you mentioned, if you need to shave off $200, I think the Raiders are a really safe play up against that Broncos defense or Broncos offense.
But yeah, what we're going to close out with right now is we're going to just give you guys some really good values you can look at in DFS, and Nick already kicked it off. Coincidentally, a lot of my big value plays are also my starts of the week.
Same. No, I did the same damn thing. Like you mentioned, I did the same damn thing with my starts of the week. I tend to try to lean values for those. So
yeah. So again, like one big one's $6,800.
Yep, that's a big one going up against Chargers.
That can really open up the rest of your lineup. If you get a QB in there, it's less than $7,000.
Less than $7,000 for QB. That's how you play two guys that are over $9,000. Just saying.
How many do you have? So we can.
Well, I have 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs.
Okay.
2 receivers, and 1 tight end. And then I just mentioned the defense plays. So,
okay, I'll let you. What you have? Go for your next quarterback.
My other quarterback is going to be Jared Goff at $7,400 against the Seahawks. Like we mentioned, and we've hammered.
So your
this.
2 sleepers are my 2 starters.
We just hammered in this episode how bad the Seahawks defense is against quarterbacks, giving up 27 points per game. Big points possible for Jared Goff. He's got the receivers to throw the football to. He's even got a solid running game going right now, despite not really having a real running back there. So I think Jared Goff this week. He's the 10th most expensive quarterback in FanDuel at $7,400, and I think that's a really, really solid play to look at, just based purely on the matchup. Plus, Jared Goff seems to have gotten right this year. So I think Jared Goff at $7,400 is a really strong value this week.
Yeah. I have 1 running back, and it was my guy that I put in at start of the week. It's Antonio Gibson giving me plays because at $6,100 with the defense he's facing, that it doesn't really get much better than that at that price range.
Absolutely not. And I'm going to even go further with that one.
You need to go down J.D. McKissick?
I am, actually. I am. And the reason is because if Antonio Gibson does not play, which he is hurt right now, he has missed practice this week. Antonio Gibson at $6,100 is unbelievable value against this Lions defense. But I'm going even a step further. I'm going to say J.D. McKissick at $5,300. Lions are the worst defense in the league against giving up fantasy points to running backs. And J.D. McKissick is a guy who can also be a pass catching back. And where have we heard the Lions got beat by a borderline no-name passing down back this year? Oh, wait, Nyheim Hines killed him for 2 touchdowns. I think J.D. McKissick can be a part of that offense and make plays as a check down running back and make plays with the ball in his hands. And at $5,300, boy, does that open things up in a lot of ways for your other positions. So I think J.D. McKissick.
If you had 2 of McKissick, you can basically do whatever you want for the rest of your lineup.
Right. I think McKissick can be a deep, deep sleeper if Antonio Gibson does not play, that you can really get a big time value out of. So that's a guy. Like I said, I'm going to go even further with this. If Antonio Gibson does not play, I really like McKissick this week. I do have one more running back.
Yeah, I will say, you can go for it.
Two, actually. I do have two more. So I am actually going to go Leonard Fournette against the Panthers. Panthers' run D is bad.
Yeah.
And I do think that the Bucs are going to look to set the tone with the run this week just based on the way that their passing offense has been the last couple of weeks. They've been just embarrassed. And I think Tom Brady has kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit and shown his age. Plus, Leonard Fournette is kind of taking over that backfield right now. He seems to be... They seem to be confident in him being able to take the reins there and increasing his role. And he's only $6,400. So, and with the way that Panthers run D is, I also think he's going to be the guy that gets the goal line carries. So I think Leonard Fournette's going to get more opportunity this week to be successful up against this Panthers defense. So, and at that $6,400, you can't beat it.
I like that.
I do have one more. Do you have any more?
I have. It's not like really like a sleeper value, but it's what I would call a value just based on what you're getting.
That's literally what I have. So I wonder if we have the same person.
James Robinson.
Yes, that is who I have.
Because I did make him a start, but at $1,700, you don't really consider that like huge, like cheap
that's not
value.
big expense. If that's the most you're spending on a running back, then you have two low cost running backs.
When you think about it though, $1,700. Think about what you're getting at a $1,700 running back. You're getting a top 5 running back on the season against the second worst run defense in the league. That's value.
I mean, Dalvin Cook just destroyed the Packers' run defense for, I think it was 4 touchdowns. And mind you, one of those was like a 68-yard reception that he went for a touchdown. So, and James Robinson averaging 17.1 points per game in FanDuel. How can he not be the guy you really target this week against Panthers against the Packers? Because look at the numbers he puts up in both on the ground and through the air. He's worth way more than $7,300. I'm shocked he's not in the 8,000s. And frankly, this week I may even pay the 8,000 plus for him just because of the matchup. So James Robinson at $7,300 is straight up a no brainer in my mind.
Yeah, we want wide receivers.
Let's do it. Nope, that was it.
I'm going pretty deep on wide receivers. So first one's going to be for me is going to be Jerry Jeudy against the Raiders. $5,800 this week in FanDuel. Last 2 games, he's been targeted 24 times over the last 2 games, combined for 11 catches for 198 yards and a touchdown. He's really emerged as a top receiver in this offense, and the Raiders just suck defensively. I know I put him as like one of those sleeper defenses you can target, but that doesn't mean that Jerry Jeudy can't expose them. I think at $5,800, it's immense value.
That's actually a really great value, and Jerry Jeudy has really kind of stepped up as the lead guy in that wide receiving core since Cortland Sutton went down. So I definitely really like Jerry Jeudy this week. I went with a couple of I kind of went with the what you're getting for the cost more with this first one here, and I'm saying spend the money for Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods this week. And Cooper Kupp is $7,700 and Robert Woods is $7,200. But Cooper Kupp also is dealing with a little bit of an injury. He was limited in practice today, which is Wednesday, the 11th. So that may have an impact on how much usage he gets. And so Woods may actually be, pay attention to that because Woods may be the better play this weekend at $7,200. But at $7,700, you're getting Cooper Kupp that has had a quietly very good, solid season. And plus, he's going up against the Seattle Seahawks defensive backfield, which is so bad. Like we mentioned.
Most fun to target.
It is the most fun to target. And only having to pay $7,700 for the top-end wide receiver for a team going up against that defensive secondary, I mean, that's a no-brainer in my mind. So a Goff Cup stack this week is so lethal that I think it's just too hard to pass up.
My other guy's going to be John Brown versus Arizona. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. He had 11 targets last game. He turned that into 99 yards. He gets to go against the Cardinals this week. This is the same Cardinals team that allowed him Tyler Lockett to go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns on him, allowed Jamison Crowder to go for 116 and 1 on him. These are similar makes of receivers, these small, quick guys to John Brown. It looks like they may have a weak. They're running not a great team. They're a very middle of the road team against wide receivers, but I think that the John Brown type receiver is their weak spot. And at what did I say, $5,600?
Yep. It's a solid play.
You don't get a better option at that spot. You just don't.
No, like, that's a solid play for sure.
Realistically, John Brown should be at least $1,200 more this week.
Here's a guy that I'm going to say I'm surprised isn't at least $7,000 because of the way he's played the last few weeks and the matchup he's gotten. It's Brandon Cooks going up against the Cleveland Browns. At $6,300, his last 4 game splits have been 3 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown against the Jags, 7 catches for 60 yards against the Packers, 9 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown against the Titans, 8 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown against the Jags. Ooh. So he's very... Honestly, you really haven't heard too much about him lately, but he has had one hell of a 4-game stretch, and I think that's going to continue against a bad Cleveland Browns secondary. To where Brandon Cooks, I think, is a guy that at $6,300 is one of the best value plays this week because I think he should be. In reality, his value is probably worth about a $7,500 play. Where you mentioned you think John Brown should be $1,200 more expensive, I think Brandon Cooks should probably be $2,400 or $1,200 more expensive this week.
I'm surprised he's that cheap. I know. He's been killing it.
He's been killing it.
So, I feel like Deshaun. I mean, yeah, he's always expensive, but like I feel like people not people have been talking about how well Deshaun Watson has played over that stretch too. Like it's
absolutely
them two together have been really
stupid good. That's why Brandon Cooks at $6,300 is such a great value that it's no question in my mind.
Yeah. Tight ends.
Let's do it. And
I have one.
I do too. I have one,
and it's the guy named as the start of the week. It's Logan Thomas at $4,900. $4,900 in FanDuel, I should say. So, like I said, you're getting a player that it's really a matchup play, but Logan Thomas, I still think, has not been terrible on the season. He is a top 20 tight end on the season, and you're going against a team that I believe is bad enough to be, even though they're not quite yet there in the rankings, I believe they're bad enough to be a bottom 5 defense against tight ends.
Now, does
FanDuel's
the presence,
not quite caught up with that? So,
does the fact that the quarterback is Alex Smith give you any pause on that?
No, not really, because
he has thrown like 6 interceptions in a game and a half this year.
Yeah, but I don't like when you're a quarterback like Alex Smith. I don't want to come off as an asshole, but like if I were a guy like Alex Smith, let's put it this way. Going through what I've been through, I'd want that safety blanket. I'm not looking downfield that much.
I'm not trying to hold on to the ball and get hit.
Exactly. If I see someone coming, I'm dumping it to the tight end every time.
Fair.
I'm trying to put that like as lightly as possible. It's sounding like a complete dick.
So there is one tight end that I would actually say that is a little bit better of a play than the one I have, and it's Robert Tonyan at $5,700. But I'm not putting him in this list because I tried to keep my picks outside of the top 10 in terms of expense. Yeah. So I went with Eric Ebron going up against the Bengals. They're 31st against tight ends. They've given up a ton of points in FanDuel to tight ends. So
how much is Eric Ebron?
He's $5,400, which is good for 9th or 10th most expensive among active tight ends. So there's a couple of tight ends that are more expensive than him that are considered IR, and Kittle and Ertz. They're still at $6,000. So I didn't even include them in this. Okay. So he's 9th or 10th, depending on if Noah Fant plays. If Noah Fant does not play, then he moves to 9th. But if he does play, he's 10th most expensive at $5,400. So I think at that type of value, getting Eric Ebron going up against that Bengals defense, as bad as they are, is something that you can really look at and say, all right, he scored last week. I think he continues that this week and gets another touchdown. So yeah. I like the Eric Ebron play up against that Bengals defense.
I'll be honest, it was fun having DFS values over when putting together starts and sits.
Absolutely.
It's different. Adds a different dimension to it.
It does. And it's a dimension that honestly makes a little more sense for this season in particular.
Yeah.
Because of the way most fantasy leagues have gone. And two, it makes more sense for us because we obviously focus more on DFS than we do anything else too. So
yeah.
But anyways, though, is that all we got this week?
That's all I got.
All right, that is going to close it out for this week, guys. We thank you again for listening. Good luck this weekend, and we hope you have a good one. And Andrew, thank you for joining me as well. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Check out our other podcasts if you're a Detroit sports fan. If you just like listening to two guys bag on their hometown team, because that's pretty much all we do. So anyways, guys, thank you again, and we will catch you next week. Peace out. You're not going to say goodbye to the people?
I was just reading a notification. I don't know if you saw this. 3 teams are eyeing the number 2 pick
Interesting.
in the NBA draft: Knicks, Bulls, and Pistons.
Oh God, here we go again. Mortgaging our entire future. All right, guys.
As long as we're still on.
Yes.
I thought you closed it.
All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. Peace out.